Hi everyone, it's Caroline from Mystery Hair, and this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to draw a face. I'm going to show you my method that I learned all the way back in college in South Africa. Shout out to ML Sultan. What up, peeps? So I'm going to teach you the method that they taught me, which I still use today, so that's quite a few years. Uh, if you want to practice on your own, I would suggest starting with a front-on face just to make life easier for you. But this is a really good picture to use as well. So if you'd like to download this one, I will stick a link to it in the notes and you can give it a try. So we first start by drawing a circle, or I'd say a football shape. Then you add a plant pot at the bottom. So a lot of people think that the circle is going to be the face and often forget the chin and try and squash the whole feature into the circle. So next I am marking the vertical middle of the face, and as you can see this face is actually pointed towards our right hand side. Then I mark the space in between the eyes, which is an eye space. That's what I'm doing here. So by drawing the space between the eyes, just reminds you to not fill that space in. Now what I'm doing is just drawing an angled line from the middle of the eyes down to where the tip of the nose is going to be. And then the corners of the mouth are going to line up with the middle of the irises. And the mouth normally sits on the bottom of the circled line, as you can see there. Another thing you can do if you want to is just mark out the chin and the cheeks. And then I'm putting some lines here where the ears are going to be. So the top of the ears line up with the eyes, the bottom of the ears line up with about the bottom of the nose. And you can tell when it comes time to actually drawing from your source image where it sits and how the head is tilted. It makes a big difference. So now what I'm starting to do is to draw the eyes. You can actually cut away at the circles by drawing a rectangle if you like, and cut away at that further. So you can see that what I'm doing here is I'm marking out the shape of the eye that I'm drawing. So you can probably see it poking out on my right, the top right hand side, the source image that I'm using. And so I'm having a look now at what her eye actually looks like. So before this point, I didn't even really have to look at my source image. It was just plotting out and mapping out the features of any face. And now what I'm doing is I'm just using them as a very light guide in the background. I'm committing to what the eye is going to look like. I'm drawing the crease. And it's worth bearing in mind when you draw the crease and you draw in the shadow underneath the eye, that those are there for a reason. So the mechanics of the eye, you need to close your eye so you have all this excess skin. So you've got really stretchy, fatty skin underneath your eye, which creates a small shadow. And then you have really thin, stretchy skin on top of your eyelid, which is compressed by your eyebrow bone. So everyone's is a bit different, but if you leave it out, your picture might look a bit strange. So everyone's got their eye line. So so now what I'm doing is just plotting out. I use that word a lot. Drawing out her eyebrow, and you can see that how I get started and how I measure it is I compare it to where the eyebrow and the shadow sits in conjunction with the eye that I've drawn. So I use the right eye that I'm facing as my starting off point, and from there I use my eye to kind of measure everything out. So I make a judgment as to how far away the top left eyebrow is to the left of the eye, and etc. This picture, Winona Ryder actually has very prominent cheeks because she's smiling in such a way that her cheeks are creating little circles. So that's what I was just reminding myself by drawing it down. And now as you can see, I've just sped forward. I've done the left eye, and I'm trying to plan out the nose by drawing down the shadows of the nose. Noses are quite difficult because they're quite far away from any landmarks. So when you're having to draw it after the eyes, it's quite a hard stretch to get the information of the eye, which is the tip of the nose and the nostrils, where all the shading is. To get that in the right position can sometimes be very tricky. So I'm trying to, as you can see, measure it out according to her prominent cheekbones, according to some sort of a diagonal line to the eye, to the nose. And the nostrils are quite easy to see how wide a person's nose is, because you can normally line that up with a part of the eye above and then draw a vertical line down. For Winona Ryder's nose, what I'm doing at this stage is just building a series of shapes. So you'll see it looks very geometric, kind of almost like she's carved out of wood. And this will all get curved and smoothed out later on in the process. For now, I just want to know that everything is in the right position so that I can get as close a likeness as possible. So you'll see me struggle with the nose for a while, because I think I really need to actually just practice a whole bunch of noses. I think that's the best tip that I can give you. If you like drawing faces, I used to just sit for hours and hours and just draw a whole variety of features. So I'd focus on an eye, for instance, and just draw loads and loads of eyes and kind of study the mechanics of how an eye works, how it sits on the face. But I would just focus in on the eye. And I think I probably need to do that again for the nose, because I do find it a struggle to get the nose right, especially when it's such a characterful nose as Winona Ryder has here. As you can see here, I'm I'm rubbing out the bits that are unnecessary. So I've drawn way too much shadow than is needed, and that makes it look a little bit too childlike, but in a good way. So I'm just getting rid of a lot of the information because I don't want it to look amateur. So that I quite like this part. The measurement from the bottom of the nose to the lips is so much easier. So now that I've got the nose down and I'm happy with how it's positioned, I'm now just marking out the prominent shadows to remind myself later on that that's what I really want to focus on. I want to get that shading in there. And also by measuring out and planning out where the shading sits, you can then take from points to get to the lips. So you can see now that I've made the mouth too high, but that's okay because the measurements of the face are just a really, really basic guide. And depending on a person's unique features, those are going to shift and move. But it's just it's a starting point really. I find this process super helpful in just getting started and feeling like I've got it pretty close to possible, but just replace that with a sentence that makes sense. I really, really love drawing lips. So with this one, I actually had to change bits of the lips quite a lot because I don't have a maths brain, and a lot of these things are getting the angles right, and sometimes I think I see it one way and then when I draw it I realise that I've gone completely wrong, so I can't explain how but you'll probably notice it when you do it. I'm looking for the smallest clues as to where everything is on her face, and I'm just exaggerating it at this point just so that I can get everything down. The best thing to focus on the lips is the crease between each lip. That is going to be a true dark shadow. I think when it comes to drawing lips, I was talking to someone the other day and it was amazing how he was saying that you should never draw the outline of the lips. And I kind of see his point because then it starts to look almost like a colouring in page. So if you focus on the shadow between the lips, so the crease of the lips, and then you just shade in the shape of the lips, then it just looks phenomenal. So at this point you can see I'm just drawing out the shape of the lips, but what I'll do later on with my flexible eraser is get rid of those harsh lines and replace them with really subtle shadows. Now I am marking out where her chin sits. On those different faces you'll notice that the shadow under the lip and before the chin protrudes are different sizes. So some people actually have that indentation between the lips and the chin is straight under the lips, and just your chin then just starts. But a lot of people, like Winona here, she's got quite a big gap. And I really love a bum chin, so I think I've gone a little bit too bum and less chin here. But don't worry, I'll fix it later on, so it's fine. I think I really like to exaggerate the features that I want to focus on later. So now that I've got my T-zone, now that I've got my eyes, nose and mouth, it's so much easier to then draw the outside of the face, the shape of the face, because you can see how it sits in conjunction with those features. So as you've seen here, I start with the side of the face by the eyes. You can kind of judge whether it's a big space or a small space. You've probably noticed that the right eye I've actually done bigger than it is in the picture. I'll fix this later on, don't worry. And the reason that I know I've done it too big is because her left side of her face is actually closer to the viewer than the right side. So her face is tilted, that her right side of her face is in the distance and the left side, and when I say left I mean what we're facing, is actually closer to us. So that means that her features are going to be bigger there because the other side is far away. Now I know I'm exaggerating because it's a face and it's not a landscape, but it still works in the same way. If you get the perspective right and the sizing and the angles, then it creates a really comfortable piece of artwork that doesn't make you feel like there's something wrong with it. Remember, when you're drawing, it's all about looking. So looking at your source photo and judging it with your eye, or if you want to be more meticulous, you can use some sort of a measuring tool like the tip of your finger, or if you want to be really meticulous, a ruler. But I find when I do that, it just goes all sorts of wrong. You need to have a little bit of mistakes on there, because then it just gives it character, doesn't it? You don't want to create a photograph because the photograph already exists. Right, again, I'm just planning out how the hair lies. I'm really happy with the way that this turned out, actually. I've really enjoyed drawing this. What I'm going to do next is focus in on some of these features. The same photograph I would love to do, and I'm going to do, is I'm going to stick some tutorials on my Patreon page, and I'm going to focus on each individual face character. So I'll probably start with eyes, then I'll do another video about the nose, and I'll do another video about the lips. And hopefully I can give you just as much advice and tricks and tips about drawing these elements as I possibly can. This is the pretty close as possible item after drawing all the features, and you can see a real difference that it makes when you start shading it in. It starts really giving the picture life. So I've started that on the right eye. I don't know why I'm obsessed with starting everything on the right eye, and you'll probably notice I've made it smaller as well. So please give it a go. I would love to see the results that you get. Have a look down below for all the links to my social media platforms, and share on whichever one that you're most comfortable with, and hopefully I can give you a shout out on my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, bye.